Good afternoon. I'm sitting here in my dear friend Lynn Barnwell's studio today. I would like to ask you what got you interested in clay?
Well, 1976 I bought my first pot and had to scrape just coins together at a crafts fair, and I told my husband I really wanted it, and we really didn't have the money, but I got it anyway. And it's sitting up there. We were watching a guy making pots then, and that's why I bought it, because it just fascinated me. But I didn't get to do anything with it until 1999. We met a gentleman at our church revival, and for youth night he brought potter's wheel and was talking to the youth and making pots, and we were just fascinated by it. And my daughter, who had 3 small children, and she couldn't get out and work because with 3 kids you can't really afford to. She said, "Oh, I would love to learn how to do that." And so we talked to the guy, and he'd only been doing it 6 months, and he said, well, he was getting ready to start up a class. And so we joined his second class he ever had, and we learned how to make doggy dishes. And a couple of little bottles, nothing extraordinary, but it was enough to hook us on the clay. So my husband had his bass boat in the garage and all his toolboxes and all that kind of stuff, and we asked him for 4 foot down the side of the garage to put a potter's wheel and a kiln in, and he begrudgingly gave us 4 foot. Well, he no longer has the bass boat. He no longer has the garage. And then we built on a glaze room on the back of the studio, took over his pool table and turned that into a showroom.
So in 1999 you started, but when did you really start getting into business?
Well, totally by accident. It was early 2000.
Okay.
We had just, well, no, it might have been in 99. We had just gotten our pieces back from our classes that we took with Keith Carpenter. And we were so proud of them. I still have my first coffee cups by my wheel to remind me where I started. And we were just so proud of all the little things that we had. So my daughter Rebecca, who is my business partner, took them to show them some of her girlfriends in town. And they took her by a little store that was in downtown Corinth, that's Waldron Street Market. And they just went in to look at the store, and her friend chimes up and says, well, she's a potter. Her and her mother are potters. And we're potters. We didn't even have any equipment yet. And the lady was so fascinated by it, a local person doing pottery, she actually bought some of our pieces. And my daughter calls me and says, hey, I sold some of our work. And I'm going, who in their right mind bought the work? She says, I got a check for $46. And she says, as soon as we get some more stuff ready, she wants it. Well, we already had our kiln ordered and 2 wheels. And so that was what we were going to start with. Each one of us have a wheel, and then we had the kiln and a work table and down 4 foot of the garage. And she had 3 small children, and so everything that we did, the children were involved in. So we had to have something to kind of entertain them. So we found that we both weren't throwing at the same time, because somebody would have to be helping the kids do things to keep them out of trouble. So we sold one of the wheels and bought a slab roller and a lot of cookie cutters. And so the kids would cut cookie cutter shapes out or play with clay and everything. And then they got a little bit older, and so we bought another wheel, and now we have 5 wheels. We have 4 large wheels and then 1 small one that I take on demonstrations. But it's always been the kids right here with us, whatever we were doing. The kids have been involved, and they all have their signature pieces that they make. The girls have all thrown on the wheel some, but they're really not interested in the wheel work. They do a lot of the slab work. In fact, most every piece of slab out here the children have made.
And they made themselves some pocket money out of it.
Oh yeah,
right?
they're 2 of them are now in college, and then the third one is senior in high school. And they've been out here since they were 2, 4, and 6, and spent all of their, all their spending money comes from here. Now they all have little jobs elsewhere and all, but they do. We pay them by the piece. We don't pay them by the hour. We found out if we have a piece price, they know exactly how much money they're wanting that week, and they jump in there and they can.
So it taught them some work ethics.
Very
Is that
much
right?
so, yeah. That all of their spending money has come from the pottery, but we don't hand it to them. Riley, when he was young, he wasn't really into making things, but he thought mopping 1,400 square foot of floor was fun. So I mean, you know, he was in charge of mopping. He still's in charge of helping. He cleans the gutters out. He hauls off the trash. He helps wedge up clay. You know,
Found his niche.
yeah.
Now these pieces are not thrown on the wheel.
No,
Obviously
these
not.
are the slab. These are the pieces that the grandchildren make.
Okay, in the press molds.
In press molds. Anything that's done in slab, pretty much they have made.
That's amazing.
Since we are in the state of Mississippi, and we do a lot with our tourism office, we sell at the state capitol in their gift shop. So Mississippi items are very important to us. So we do a lot of trays in the shape, serving trays the shape of Mississippi. We do them small, and let's see, this is our smallest size. You know, it'll hold a stick of butter.
So Lynn, when the children were here with you in the studio, they were basically homeschooled, right?
Right, they homeschooled until like their junior year in high school.
And how did all the work here in the studio, did it affect them in any way that they did better in school, or how would you say did it affect their academics?
They're all three doing very well in school. I mean, the girls have got full scholarships to college, and Riley is looking at full scholarships too. So the homeschooling aspect, they had to have a creative outlet. They had to have some art and things. We've done painting with them. We've had all of their little groups of friends and done pottery classes with them. You know, we've gone and taught with the homeschool groups to get the kids interested. You know, to learning about different types of art. I think it helps. You know, anytime you've got a creative outlet, it seems to go over to your education. You know,
and you see,
you get to see things differently.
You are touching on a subject that's very close to my heart. I believe that art is a way that one get taught to solve problems.
They have to solve their own problems. They come to me and say, "Mama, I think we need to make a piece like this," and describe it to me, and then we'll figure out the logistics on how to do it.
Okay.
So they're very involved in that type of thing. Now they're all basically work on the slab. Riley cuts a lot of crosses for me. He helps with the bread baskets that you're so fond of. He's very exacting. You know, he's wanting to be an engineer. So I mean, he cuts my pieces for me, and they all got to be exact. You know, he's very precise. So you know, that's helping him. He's seeing how things are put together and what it takes to get things put together. And so I think that'll carry on to his engineering.
And they also learned stuff happening from the beginning and the end results of that.
Well, see, I'm not a very patient person. So when I first started pottery, I said, well, this is going to take forever to get an end result. And it does if you start from a piece and then you just wait for that piece to dry and wait for that to where you can trim it, wait for it to dry, fire it, everything. You know, it's a 2-week process minimum. And then but we've got such a rhythm. We have pieces that are just thrown. We have pieces that are bone dry. We have pieces that are in the bisque kiln. We have pieces in the glaze kiln. So we have something in all different aspects of it. So it doesn't seem like it takes an eternity to get a piece finished. Because we've always got something going.
But for the children, they learn to where things starts and all the processes that it needs to go through.
Yeah, and they appreciate the time that it takes. You know, most people will look at a coffee cup and not think much about it. But you know, if you think about the 20 times you've had to handle that piece of clay to get the coffee mug out. You know? But they see all those processes, and they're very precise in what they do. And like slab pieces, they're very conscious about warpage, and the girls have such a tender touch with the clay. They don't leave any marks on it. They just have such a touch.
Now I want to get over to a subject that will give you a chuckle. We met each other roughly in the 2000s, the beginning of 2000. You took a class with me during that time. And I was looking through your shelves earlier today, and I noticed that little teapot, and I remember you made that.
That's the first pinch pot that I ever made. Two pinch pots.
From a pinch pot that you made that little pot. And I could not help but looking at the handle that you got on there. Now, the part that will give you a chuckle is that I had my children at my house now during Christmas season, and they were drinking from the mugs that you gave me. And they made comments about that, how much they like those mugs and how well they handle by the handle.
And you and I have always had a disagreement about handles.
I remember that. What made you decide that that's what you want to stick to? Is that because your clients demanded that from you? Was it something that you believed in? Because we're going to touch a little bit on your designs in a second, how you came up with your designs. But let's start with that mug handle for a second.
Well, we started out, and I've always liked a wider handle than what your traditional handles that you made, because yours are more the elegant European style, thinner handles that are made to hold this way. Well, you know, I'm like from the your champagne, I'm beer. You know, it's you got to have that mug. You got to have something purposeful to hold on to. Yeah, and I've gotten pickier about my handles over the years, and hopefully that they're comfortable. But I sell a tremendous amount of mugs, so evidently somebody likes my handles. I want it to really fill that gap there, because balance-wise, and then I make them where my finger balances this way. So I'm balancing top and bottom.
Okay.
The mug's not tippy if it's full. You know, and I usually have like a two finger width here. I want my fingers far enough away that I don't burn my fingers. If I have a scalding hot cup of coffee or something, I don't want my fingers touching, which I have a mug by a very famous potter. Beautiful to look at, but I don't like to use it because my finger always touches.
And when it's cold, it's also nice to just squish through like this.
Well, I have so many people that says, I need a mug that I can put 4 fingers in, and especially guys. They want, and I'm going like, do you really drink it that way?
Yeah.
And they stop and think about it. Well, maybe I don't, but I just like to have one that big. But me, I drink mine more like this.
Okay, now we've talked about the mug, but I would like for you to let us walk around a little bit and you give me a little bit of an idea, an overview of your designs, and maybe tell me a little bit how they developed.